everything else in that man. How do I need to be hands on that?
Keep my hands cut off, man. You ready? Already recording? Okay, cool. That's a bet. Let's start with this brother's page. Shalom, y'all. Just give 1 sec. Cool. All right, record on that one too. All right, hey, Shalom.
Shalom.
First and foremost, we want to give all praise, all honor, and all glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Hakodash. We also want to give double honors to our apostles and our elders and bishops of Great Millstone that do rule well through the Holy Spirit. And we want to say peace, blessings, and salutations, of course, as always, that are unto you elect, who are scattered throughout the four winds of this earth, pushing this truth and all sincerity. We're the brothers from Great Millstone Doubters Branch coming to you all with another live class session. Lord willing, that's edifying to the flock. We have the elder here from Arkansas, Yakal, that's here. So he's going to be adding his perspectives, of course, through the Spirit. You know, as if you've been in tune with the lessons past few days, you've seen this brother, you know. But nevertheless, you know, as we're going to talk about here, you see the title at hand, and it's going into the wicked being revealed in the last days. And the scriptures talks about that, and we actually have it held in 2 Thessalonians 2. But before we go into that, what inspired me to want to compose this lesson or put this lesson together? All right, a few days ago, I put a lesson together touching up on Esau's rulership in the last days, and I asked ChatGPT its perspective on the Edomites ruling in the last days. Because people try to say the Edomites are done away with. They try to push the Edomites to the side, the so-called Christians and such. But when you go on ChatGPT, which is the most popular AI engine that's used right now to pretty much siphon information, all right, when you look at that in ChatGPT, everything that's listed there is based on what you see right now. And I kind of added to the party a little bit because Yashawama did a lesson going into Amalek on ChatGPT, and the bro Tazamahi did a lesson on Lamech. And when I'm talking about Lamech, we're talking about the Lamech that came out of the line of Cain. You know, 'cause in Lamech's time, as he lived, you know, there was a lot of the sons of God being persecuted back in that time. So, you know, I ended up, you know what I'm saying, taking a page from their book, and I typed in Esau's significance in the latter end. Because we know, according to the Bible, he has a time that he's going to be ruling in the end. But I just wanted to play with it and type it in on ChatGPT and see what it had to say. And it got you. And interestingly enough, when you look at it, all right, and read it, of course it says everything that we prophesy about pertaining to Esau, but it uses the perspective of the Hebrew Israelites. And with ChatGPT being the most popular AI engine that's being used right now to get information and intel, why didn't it use a Christian's perspective? Or why didn't it use, you know, a small hat perspective? Out of all these different sects and organizations that are out here that it can go into, why did it use little old us? And the reason why it's being used is because the Lord is using us to air out the wicked's dirty laundry. All right, the Lord is using us to reveal the wicked. And that's why we wanted that pulled in 2 Thessalonians 2. Whoever has that held.
2 Thessalonians 2. Let me start. Can I start at 3?
Now, you can start wherever you want in the Spirit.
It says, let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come except there be a falling away first.
There you go. So it says, let no man deceive you. All right. And what that's ultimately going into is pretty much, you know, I put myself in the shoes of the Apostle Paul around that time. He talks about many false prophets would come. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? You pretty much had a lot of stuff that was going on. But according to Bible prophecy, it didn't state that the end was going to come until Esau came into play. All right. And you can read that, and we can, you know, I can pull it up here in a minute in 2 Ezra 6. But with the Apostle Paul, knowing the prophets, knowing the prophecies contained within the writings of the prophets, best believe he had a very keen understanding that Esau had to come in the end. You know, and then the Apostle Paul, just like the rest of the apostles in that time, lived during the Roman Empire, which is the fourth beast. You know, but when you go into the prophecy of the fourth beast, you would know that more things would have to transpire at the very end in order for him to actually, when I say him, talking about the wicked, to be revealed in this time. You know, and that's what this chapter is going to go into, because the Apostle Paul specifically goes into the wicked in this chapter. And how he was going to have a time that was set aside where he was going to rule the earth. All right? You got it.
It says that the man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition,
Sure.
And this time, like you said, the sons, they're being revealed through all their wicked inventions. Okay? Now, when you go to 2 Corinthians 2, in 11, it says, "Least Satan should get an advantage over us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. His devices is the AI that he has. So we, like you said, we're not ignorant of it. We know that AI brings forth lies. It does. We were looking at one today, the Will Smith thing. You remember?
Yeah, earlier this morning.
So they bring forth lies. So we know, like, they're taking our text, our context of scriptures, and they're putting it in there, and they probably tweaking it some kind of way too, as well. So we know, you know what I'm saying, that he's being revealed through his wicked inventions, man.
That's right, that's right. And even when you read it, you was gonna say something else?
No, I was going, you know.
I was gonna just say, even when you read it in Revelation chapter 20, and I just get it really quick. When you read it in Revelation chapter 20, verse 3, this is a prophecy going into how he was gonna eventually have a time in the end where he was gonna rule. All right, when you read it here in Revelation chapter 20, verse 3, it makes mention that he was going to have a time where he was going to rule for a short season. All right, because even in the time period where this revelation was written, all right, the Roman Empire, the Edomites, they were ruling at that time. All right, but if you go according to prophecy, we know that they would have to fall, and they did fall. Jake ruled for those thousands of years, and then afterwards, during the Renaissance, they would have that short season where they would rule again, starting around the 13th, 14th century. But even around that time, you still had certain Jakes that was in positions of power. All right, but around that time period, that's where the Edomites started getting in power, and the Bible talks about that. Okay, so when you read it here really quick in Revelation chapter 20, and I'm going to just jump straight to it here in verses. I'll just jump straight to it in verse 3. All right, and it says, well, I'll start at verse 2. Screw it, I'm gonna start at 1. I'm sorry, y'all. Just to establish the subject. Okay, so this is Revelation 20 and 1, and it says, "And I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand. And he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is called the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years." And ultimately what that's going into is the Edomites being in captivity for a 1,000-year period of time. All right? This is a period of time where the Israelites were actually ruling Europe at that time. You can go into history on the Moors and such. And a lot of Jake like to talk about the Moors like that's the end-all, be-all of Jake's rulership. They go straight to the Moors. Oh, y'all know we was the Moors, right? Which it was a time where Jake was ruling. But when Jake was ruling Europe for those thousands of years, we was going the hell off. Which is why the Lord allowed Satan to be let loose for that short season. I'm not saying that's solely the reason why, of course, for prophecy's sake. But Jake was being wicked, and Jake got proud. So eventually the Lord sent Edom again to rule over us, according to prophecy.
What's that scripture? He's the minister of the Lord of evil. Now, see, I've been pushing that hard for longest. It's a lot getting on my head. It's on my head. I just want to throw it in there because you're in the spirit. I ain't trying to steal your thunder, man. A lot of dudes get upset, man. And you know what? I'm going to say something, man. A lot of dudes, this is why we got to vent shit, bro. Okay? Trust me, man. My feet are on the ground. Yo, man, we all go through our little phases and shit, but my feet are on the ground now. You got a lot of guys in GMS. You know what I'm saying? A lot of dudes in GMS that get emotional because we get on to 2/3. The officer just said Jake was going off. We know for a fact. We taught y'all brothers that.
Right.
During the dark ages, Jake was going off. Right. And then what did I learn? I learned it from Apostle Tahar, man. But we did I ain't just Apostle Tahar just stand up there and say, oh. Everything that I learned from Apostle Tahar, I learned firsthand. We did the fucking research, man. That's all the fuck y'all thought we was doing for the past fucking goddamn 35 years, man. Huh? You understand? And y'all brothers know I'm telling the truth, because y'all did the research yourself, man. Right. I didn't spend the past fucking 35 years of my life bullshitting. Because if I thought that was the case, I would have fucking not been in the truth.
That's right.
You understand? No, bro, I'm sorry, man. I'm not gonna. I want you to shut up. Stay in the spirit. Because as soon as I shut my mouth, I want you to pick right up. You gotta learn to do that,
Kind,
bro.
Apostle, kind, no doubt.
Stay right where you are. Because you edifying, man. I'm just saying what I gotta say, man. Because that's how I came up, man. You be speaking to High Priest Ariel, hold on, let me say something. If the spirit jumped on High Priest, you just step to the side,
Kind.
and you're like, High Priest Ariel said what he had to say. And then, yo, man, that's how it is. Jake, you Jakes and fucking GMS gotta fucking wake up to realities, man. You understand?
Bro.
That's another thing I wanted to address. All GMS. Jake gotta wake up to fucking reality. See, the fucking problem is, this world, it affects all of us, bro. Myself, the apostles, like this world, but we gotta say, fuck this world, man. And we gotta stay in that ancient world order according to the scriptures, Yahweh Shem Havashai spirit. You understand? You going into the history, and I want you to stay there.
Come.
But you just mentioned something that it just sparked another. In the Bible says, who knoweth the way of the spirit? You brothers gotta understand something. You gotta realize something, man. There's something I'm gonna tell you, brothers, man. All brothers within hearing. There's something you brothers gotta realize. Y'all gotta start rebuking certain demons that fuck with you. Okay? Y'all hear me? If you wanna make it. Y'all gotta start rebuking. I know, I'm not just saying that this isn't, I'm talking from the heart, man. Y'all hear me, man? And I'm talking to you elders, you officers, you top guys. I'm talking to y'all, man. Y'all better fucking really start, like, understanding shit, bro. Come on, man. You understand? The Bible says, who knoweth the way of the Spirit? We might be going into something in the Spirit. It's not about us. We got our little program set up. Okay, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. But then the Spirit of Yahweh Shem has to listen, fuck that. I want this to come out. You know? You see? I know that's why a lot of people be having a problem with me. Because, like, I'm just raw, bro, but I learned that from Apostle Tahar, man. Like, fuck the root, fuck that, man. Alright? Look, man, alright? But if I'm not saying some off-the-wall crazy shit, that, like, you understand what I'm saying? But if I'm saying, like, if I'm coming according to the scriptures, and I'm coming according to the name of Yahweh, that's what it is. You understand? You brothers gotta learn that, man. So, like you, not just, when I say you brothers, I ain't
Generally speaking.
generally GMS period, man. What the fuck? You think I'm just a fucking novice that just walked in the back door here yesterday, bro? Huh? I don't think so. I don't think y'all do, because I wouldn't be here with you. You brothers wouldn't be fucking with me. Yeah, I got my ways about me, you know what I mean? Okay, but that's just fucking me. But that's another thing, brothers. That could be a stumbling block, you know? Jake gotta be spiritual. Okay, real talk. Different brothers got different spirits, man. Okay, but you think I would still be here right now? In the truth, still fighting in the truth alongside you brothers? If I was a total piece of shit. Right? I'm battling demons that you brothers haven't encountered yet, man. Okay? I'm telling you the truth. And I'm trying to help you brothers, man. You understand? But no, Sha'ar, what I told you. Stay right where you are, because as soon as I'm done talking, I want you to jump right back where you are. See, my brother, I'm teaching you high level shit now, and it's true. You did? You brothers don't understand, man. I mean, look, what I'm saying, I know y'all battling demons. I know y'all. But I'm telling you, I already been where y'all at, man. But I'm about to side, but I can tell you how about you. I'm shy. I'm still here. Me and Apostle Gabar, man, we done been to the Apostle Tahar, of course, but you know, me and Apostle Gabar back in the day, man, bro, we thought we was really gonna lose our minds. And this is back when we were young dudes. This is 30 years ago. Okay, I'm fucking 52, but back then I was fucking 17, 18. Thinking I'm gonna lose my fucking mind. Okay? At 18 years old, 19, 20. You understand, man? But somehow the Lord was with us, man. The Lord was, you know, you were able to fight through it, the scriptures and the Spirit of the Lord, and, you know. But like how you said, Charles, you was going into the, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where was you at?
Revelation 20:3.
But no, you said it's something.
Oh,
said,
yeah, going
the Spirit.
pretty much in the history when Israelites were ruling. So Jacob say the black man was ruling, Moors was ruling,
Yeah,
all
beautiful,
that.
beautiful,
Yeah, look at
awesome.
that like it was an end all be all of where we came from, where we started from, pretty much.
Beautiful.
You know.
That's what led me into all this other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But then was they right?
Nah, they wasn't. No, they wasn't.
Was them niggas right?
No.
The Moors was
Oh no,
right.
hell no, they was off. They was in Islam.
Yeah.
Yeah, they was hella off.
They were hella off.
Yeah, going off like a motherfucker.
Going on, oh, them in the thought. Okay, and study. Y'all gotta watch that movie El Cid with Charlton Heston. You got Edomites playing the parts, but like, yo, the Moors were fighting against the Christians. And then, see, this is why you brothers gotta get into that, man. You gotta do your research, man. Like, bro, we know what the fuck we talking about, man. We taught y'all that. The Berbers, you gotta get that book, Golden Age of the Moor. We did our research, bro. We've been doing our research for the past 50 years. Golden Age of the Moor. I had 2 of those books. You know how Satan fucked them, whatever. The Berbers, those were the Christian noblemen who got converted into Islam. You see? That movie El Cid and the Apostle Tahar taught us this shit 30-something. He said basically you had Jake, it was always Jake fighting against Jake. Because you had Jake that was under the philosophy of Islam.
Yep.
When Muhammad came into power, and then my man Rudolph R. Windsor, who wrote that book, Babylon Timbuktu. See, man, and those are other Israelite dudes that did, those are scholars that did their research, and those books will be hard to find right about now.
Yeah. I just pulled it up and
Hold on, let's see. That's it?
it's
But I had 2 of those books that disappeared somehow over the past 30 years.
$136.
Yeah.
It didn't cost that much back in the
I was gonna say it was
90s.
probably $10 back then.
Yeah, it was like $10
Yep.
for that book. Golden Age of the Moor. Now, my son's mother, right? She was Italian. She was Sicilian and now they done. My firstborn son, right? She brought the book because she was coming back then because we was like, we can't deal with Edomite women. That was a rule back in One West. You can't be dealing with Edomite women. That, bro, see, y'all don't even know you brothers got freedom that we didn't have.
Oh, man.
You know what I mean? Back then, you had to deal with the nigga woman. You had to deal with the nigga woman. Basically.
Yeah.
But even if you came with an Ephraimite bitch, because you had certain guys that were like, look, there's a spot. If the chick was light skinned and had straight, that's a Spaniard. You had certain niggas, but really niggas was hating because they couldn't get that.
That's it. That was really it.
You know what I mean?
That's it.
But I will say this. That wasn't the hierarchy. That wasn't King Marshall, Yakov. They didn't say that. Like if a brother or if a woman came into school that was so-called Northern Kingdom, they didn't judge. They like, hey, but there were certain other niggas that just had a problem with Northern. So they go back to the old hatred. You know what I'm saying? Now, if you came in there with a woman that looked like, or a bunch of supply, you, my ex-girlfriend, you met her, right?
Yeah.
You know, I brought her out here, Margarita.
Yeah.
She looked like she was an Ephraimite, but she had the native look.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, she didn't look like an Edomite at all. She looked like an Israelite. But she looked like a Gadite. You know, my ex-girl. Wasn't surprised you met her.
Yeah.
You might have met her too. You met her, right? Margarita. But she could pass for a Gadite, right?
Yeah.
A native woman. But let's say back in way like back when I first came to school in One West in Israel, if I was brought her right, nah, bro, she a Spaniard because she didn't look like Angela Bassett. That was like the mentality. I'm trying to explain to y'all brothers. That was like the mentality back then. I don't know. Like you had to be with a straight up black bitch. Otherwise you was going off. Which, that's ridiculous because in the scriptures, there's the law on the concubine. There's a law on that. You could deal with women of the other nations. That's lawful. And then brothers are, well, you know, and then you bring that up and you cut dudes. Well, you know, you deal with the women, they'll put demons on you. But the black woman don't got demons on her? The black woman won't put demons on your ass? You understand what I'm saying? But that was the reason, Shaw, stay where you are. Stay where you are, Shaw.
Right.
No, because you said Jake, the Moors were ruling. The Moors had shit locked down. And what was the Moors doing? They were conquering,
Right.
ruling, but what was the Moors doing?
Shit. I mean, it was conquering, ruling, you know what I'm saying? Shit.
What in particular was the Moors doing? Popping Edomite.
Okay. Yeah, right.
Right?
Yeah.
Spoils. Spoils of war. Was not Esau popping the nigger woman?
Yeah, right.
Was not Esau popping the northern kingdom women? Christopher Columbus, that devil, when he came to the Caribbean islands, and he was just going to town, man.
Right.
Them nasty, dirty crackers, man. Popping them Taino and Arawak women, man. You know, they was going to town. So these fucking idiots that's talking all that shit about what you look like and your image, there's a lot of motherfuckers running around that look just like us. That's not us. Remember Yahushua said, let the tails grow with the wheat.
Yeah. The Apostle Paul said, you know, when you read it, I think what Acts 13 and 41,
Uh-huh.
it goes into our work in those days. You know what I'm saying? And that's pretty much tied to the work of the Israelite foreigners coming in that doesn't look like the standard Israelite.
Come.
You know, so you know, he said the spot. If I can just read that really quick for you.
Yeah, oh, Shaw. Oh, man, before you read that, you remember, before you read that, you remember, yo, man, this is, for whatever reason, it's popping in my head, Shaw. You remember my truck outside. Remember when we first brought my truck? Because you was the main brother on deck helping me with, my truck.
Yeah.
And we was trying to do something. We was trying to pay for it, or we was trying to get it right. Whatever we was trying to do. Then we went to the bank. And that.
Yeah, it's like the Wells Fargo. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that was my bank at the time. You remember that one little bastard Mexican motherfucker? I don't know. I'm trying to get you to remember.
You talking about the one I was trying to get us to.
No, but at first he was all friendly.
Yeah, I know you're talking about. Yeah.
You know, I don't remember the motherfucker's name.
Yeah, I don't want to disclose too much information. You know what I'm saying? But I know what you're talking about.
Them motherfuckers don't look that. I'm just using this as a testimony.
The bank teller.
The bank teller. I don't remember the motherfucker's name.
Yeah, right.
But whatever. Whenever he was cool, but then somehow this shit wasn't coming together. That his whole attitude.
Yeah.
But he looked like a straight up Israelite.
Right.
But in the spirit, and when me and you got
Spaniard.
we said that motherfucker probably got to eat him.
Yeah.
Right? Now you looking at him, he look like a straight, he Israelite. Them other camps will take him in, but he might be a goddamn Edomite.
Right.
You know what I mean? We talked about that.
Yeah, I remember.
Because we both, his spirit was, he looked like straight up
He was a piece of shit.
Islam.
Yeah.
But his whole spirit was off. I wasn't really feeling his spirit, man.
Yeah.
And you wasn't.
No, not at all.
You remember that day, right?
I remember. I know exactly where we was at, what we was doing.
Yep. And I was like, man, this motherfucker. And then we got into a conversation on that. So, hey, see, a lot of these dumb niggas, they love to talk about, people who don't look like Israelites who are, but they never want to deal with the other flip side of the coin. You dig? So, okay, they love to talk about, but that's funny. They'll talk about how the white man raped the Israelite woman, but then, like, in other words, like, prior to the modern times, like back in even back in the days, no Israelite man was just having sex with Edomite women or women of the like Jake was just like this.
Right.
Like Israelite men only had sex with Israelite women.
if we had that mindset back then, there would be no more tribe of Benjamin.
Yep.
Just saying.
Yeah. Right? Right? Israelite men just didn't have sex with women of the other.
Right.
That didn't happen, even though the Bible tells you it happened.
Right.
There's a law in the Bible on it. But Israelite, no. Jake was just, I can't do that. No.
Right.
But then when you go into the scriptures, King David, King Solomon had women of the other nations.
Yeah.
So how, I don't understand the logic.
Jake. Yeah.
Go ahead, man.
Come on, just a quick one for you. Yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
Acts 13,
Yeah, 41.
41.
Yep.
Behold, you despise it, and you wonder, and perish. For I work a work in your days, a work which ye shall in no wise believe, though a man declared it unto you.
And just back to what the apostle said, what that verse is going into is pretty much you had believers that were coming into the church that actually looked like heathen. They were Israelites, but they looked like heathen. And that's why when you read this verse, it says, behold, ye despisers, and wonder and perish. And now when you look at the punctuation of this verse, because when you read the scriptures, that punctuation is important. There's a colon written right afterwards. So everything that's written after this colon is pertaining to the despisers and wonder. You know, when there's those wicked scribes and Pharisees, those that are, you know, you're talking about those that were in the spirit of the Pharisees in your time, you know, and that's what they were doing. They were looking at the Israelites that were coming in that didn't look like Israelites. All right, and the main gripe back then was also circumcision. You know what I'm saying? Are they circumcised? Are they not circumcised? And that was a stumbling block to them because they pretty much was trying to close the doors of the kingdom of heaven just because of the outward look in the flesh, which is why the Apostle Paul worded it the way he did. He despisers. You wonder, but through your wondering on this, you're going to perish with that mindset. You know, because you're looking so much on the outside. When it comes to the inside, you're overlooking the spirit of that man. You know, just because of the outside. That verse came, you know, it came to mind, Apostle, you was breaking your point out, you know?
Yeah. The more were going on, yeah, Jake was going up.
Yeah.
That's what sparked all this.
Yeah, for sure. No doubt.
Sloppy to throw the spirit off.
Nah, that's all good. That's all good.
Well, he was mentioning the Moors. They actually, when they was in Italy, like in Spain, they actually, like you said, that's where you get the Sicilians, how they changed the hair color, their eyes. Because they was ruling, well, if I'm not mistaken, you can look it up, maybe 700 years, like from the 700s up to like 1400s. Then, it started that, things started turning around. Then
Right.
you start coming back in the rulership. But at the time frame, that's when
Yeah,
it grew, So as you mentioned, when they came into that area around the 700, 710, something, they started mingling and mixing, and they was like they popping in women.
Yeah, Lord said the fucking bubonic plague as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that wiped off a lot of people in that area, especially Jacob.
Yep.
The fucking bubonic plague hit and killed millions of people.
Mm-hmm.
You don't think that has something to do with that? You know, Jake was being wicked, so the Lord sent the plague over there. People in general, though, I ain't saying Jake was the only one affected, because they wasn't, but that was right around the time where that transition of power happened, when that bubonic plague hit.
Yep.
You know? Just wanted to add to that.
No,
you
no,
know?
no.
For sure. Was that it on that, you know what I'm saying, on that?
No, that was, say what I had to say, man.
Okay, cool, no doubt. Well, I'm just gonna bring this final verse out in verse 3, and we can jump back to that 2 Thessalonians 2. And back in Revelation 20:3 says, and he cast them into the bottomless pit and shut them up, which that bottomless pit's talking about Europe. And the reason why it's called the bottomless pit, because it struggles growing vegetation, growing in general. It's not like Africa, North America, they're different countries that can actually grow fruit, vegetation and all of that. Europe is a bottomless pit,
Potatoes, and all shit, and it's not real lush.
Exactly.
Different areas.
Yep. It says, and shut him up and set a seal upon him that he should deceive the nations no more till the 1,000 years be fulfilled. And after that, he must be loosed for a short, loosed a little season, which we're at the latter end of that little season. All right. It started within the Renaissance. All right. Just go again. The brother made mention of it around the 14th century.
Well, you gotta go deeper. Y'all teaching, you gotta
Kind of
teach, man. Y'all teaching, you gotta teach. You said Renaissance, you gotta break it down.
Okay. Cool.
Let's get deep, man. You gotta use the rake.
No doubt.
You breaking the leaves up in the yard, man. Come on.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'll read that again and just break that down further. It says, and after he must be loosed for a little season, which is going to the Renaissance, which that word means new birth. You know, because you had the Edomites that had their time to rule when they were the Greeks. They had the time to, and you can read about that in the Maccabees. All right, and then you had the time of the Romans when Yahushua came on the scene. And when Yahushua was on, and even after Yahushua came on the scene, the Romans was ruling. But when the Romans ruled for that period of time, which was roughly around 180 years, and they were the Roman Empire, that was a time period that was called Pax Romana, which is translated in Latin, peace of Rome. And during that time period, you can read it in the Gospels, Yahushua's walk, you can read about the Acts. And even when you go into that, it says it in Matthew the 11th chapter, during the beginning time of the Roman Empire, it says the kingdom of heaven suffered violence, and the violence took it by force, which those are the Roman Edomites. All right, and they had their time to rule roughly around 180 years during Pax Romana. And then you had a little bit afterwards, Jake getting up in there. All right, even the latter end of Pax Romana, you had, it was a time period where you had 4 good emperors that ruled, which are all Jakes. All right, and then afterward, you had, the Byzantine Empire, and that lasted roughly around 1,000 years. And afterward, Edomites came in play, the Renaissance came in play, which is translated new birth, and that's why the scriptures say Satan was let loose for a short season. All right, because Satan means adversary. Adversary means the enemy. Who are they the enemy of? The Israelites. And actually in Chat GPT, I think when you pulled up something like that, it went into how the Edomites would be the sole enemies of good in the last days. I believe it said something along those lines.
Yeah, I think it readjusted, but the dude put him in with Rome.
Mm-hmm.
I can bring it out.
God, that's a better.
Also, the word season goes into chronos. Chronos means time, either long or short.
That's right.
Okay, and particularly during the Lord's time, 1 day is 1,000 years. It's a short time, but it's actually the longest captivity we've been in. Because it's Renaissance from 1300, we in 2025. We're still in the Renaissance period.
Right.
You're talking 670 years. So this is like, I said, long and short. So it's the longest captivity we've been in.
So this
The Israelites.
Genesis 27, and he'll have to do with the earth.
Mhm.
There's only 2, nations that will have, like you say, that rulership for having that do with the earth, for having everything that basically ruled over the whole world.
Mhm.
That was going to be, like you say, descendants of Esau, and also coming for the, after the Esau, when the kingdom of heaven come in.
Yeah.
In the chat GPT, when I went back up, it kind of switched up, but it says if Esau ruled the world at the end, the interpretation depends heavily on the context, religious, historical, and symbolic. Most references to Esau to come from the biblical, especially come from the Bible, especially in Genesis and later prophetic and apocalyptic texts. Here's a breakdown of perspectives, biblical, religious perspective, and some interpretations, particularly from certain Christians and Hebrew Israelite traditions. Esau is
See that? If I may, read that part again. Because it makes mention of us. It says Hebrew Israelite.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really the meat and potatoes of why we're doing this class right now, because ChatGPT is putting the focus on the teachings of the Hebrew Israelites, tying in the teaching of Esau's significance in the last days. Nobody else is going into that but us. And that's important, because when you read biblical prophecy, it tells you that the Edomites would be ruling in the last days. We got 2 Thessalonians 2 held, and brother's going to get to it in a second, but it goes into that time the wicked will be revealed. The Apostle Paul says in that time. So clearly he wasn't talking about the time period he was in right then,
Right.
because they would have to have their time to rule. Jake would have to rule for those thousands of years, and then Esau would have to be let loose for that short season. And in that time, he would be revealed to the full capability of who he is. Because even at that time, he ruled the whole compass of the earth. Back then, during the Roman Empire, they didn't rule the whole compass of the earth at that time. They ruled the known world at that time. What was really mainly occupied by, the massive civilization. So when you go into that prophecy there, they actually had to rule the whole encompass of the whole earth. The Apostle Paul was in the spirit right here. You got it, bro.
Hey, everyone.
Come on.
Jeremiah 3:15, and I will give you pastors according to my heart, who shall feed you with knowledge and understanding. And the Lord sent, when you go to Hosea 12:10, he sent the prophets. So for them to take the AI, they know we the prophets. But Esau always got to play on shit. That's why he got the AI doing it. You know what I'm saying? He always have a play on what he's really, really trying to do. but he know that he's taking the information from the prophets. That's why I see like this AI shit is so damn correct, because they already got it.
They got it from us.
You see what I'm saying? So
Right.
yeah, they already got it from the prophets.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they might put their spin on it. You know, we have to be beware in the end when they do blue beam. You know what I mean? All that's in it, but they know they've got the information from the prophets.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And if our message was so insignificant, then why is this top tier engine that's being used for a lot using our words? That's because these words are faithful and true.
Right.
You know? Did you have more on that?
Says some interpretation, particularly with certain Christian and Hebrew Israelite traditions, Esau is associated with Edom, which in turn is sometimes symbolically linked to Rome and Western powers.
There you go, Rome and Western powers, which goes to show you that America, which is the country all the way to the west, is tied with Roman influence. It's influenced by Rome. You know, still has what Romanized policies, Romanized lingo it still uses. You know, when the North Atlantic Treaty Organization was composed together, that was composed together through a guys called the Treaty of Rome. You know, so they use Rome in so many different of their lingos and their ideas.
Yeah.
And they can't help but to do it because the Spirit of the Lord is on them to do that. Because the scriptures must be fulfilled. You know? Salaki, brother. I know you probably have more on that.
Keep going, it says, in apocalyptic literature, 2nd Ezra 6 and 9 in the Apocrypha, Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that follows.
Yeah, and the bro Yara Allah actually has that help. And it's very crucial when you read this here, and it makes sense why Esau took the Apocrypha out of the Bible. You know, because as much as they try to say that it's not canon and such, it was canon before Esau had the idea to say it wasn't canon. It was there long before Esau tried to say it wasn't canon. But again, the reason why it does that, because it exposes his ass. It exposes him in Maccabees, going into how they pretty much put their pictures in the books of the law, put themselves in there, it exposes them there. It exposes them right here in 2nd Ezra 6, which is elders getting ready to read. And it ain't even just the Apocrypha that exposes them, but they had to try to take something away. But guess what?
Well, Job 9:24.
That's another one. That's right, Apostle. Job 9:24. The earth is given into the hands of the wicked. He covered the face of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? And then it says, therefore my days are swifter than a post. So what's that saying? When the Edomites are ruling the world, life expectancy will be cut shorter. Death would be at everybody's doorstep.
Ooh. Now, oh my God, what's today? Saturday?
Gun, yeah.
Today's Saturday, right? Yesterday was Friday.
Mm-hmm.
I went home, back to my woman's crib, right? You know, we watched the news. Me and my demon. You know, I'm gonna like the Apostle God. That's where I got that from. Like, you're a woman, you're a demon. You're a demon. The Apostle Tahar been saying that for over 30 years. He used to call us, you know, you're my demon. Because these women are demons. All right? They're sleeping with the enemy. Remember that movie came out in the 90s? Anyways, right? You know, like, in real talk, the Lord used her to get me back into watching the news, which is spiritual because I was using that fuel new videos.
Nice, yeah.
So I'm all into watching the news. Anyways, last night, we watching the news, all kind of, you know, all the other stuff that's going on. And I guess, I don't know if that was here in Texas or some other state, but it's local news, I'm assuming it's somewhere. If it's not in Dallas, it's somewhere. A lot of shit goes down in Dallas.
Yeah, yeah.
A lot of shit be going down there. Oh, by the way, Friday night, 2 cops got injured. They're not going into details on what happened. Now, brothers up at the camp was, yeah, 2 cops got injured downtown Dallas.
Police was out there.
All kind of shit going on with that. But see, what we've been saying, brothers, y'all, what we've been saying? We've been saying, look, man, you niggas, like when we out there speaking that Friday night, hey, man, the Lord gonna bring judgment out here, man. The Lord gonna bring, you know?
Right.
But I watched the news Saturday morning, and motherfuckers getting shot, killed, like all kind of judgment is going forth through downtown Dallas.
Right.
All kind of judgment, man. And it's not like, oh, okay, a couple of months later, no, it's like, boom, every week, every day. In Texas, there's a lot of judgments being handed out.
Yeah.
Hey, man, this is truly the frontier. This is rugged territory out here, man. Cops are getting, even the cops ain't safe. The police ain't safe. So the police is supposed to protect us, right? Now you on your own, homie. You know what I mean? This is the deal, man. This is the Wild West. This is the frontier. But why? Because well, not just Jake. You got them wild ass, crazy Edomites out here too.
Yeah.
You know, psychotic Edomites running loose out here, and crackers. Then you got the psychotic Mexicans and all these other Spanish tribes running loose. But then overall, you got niggas running loose, these psychotic, deranged niggas. The offspring of Big Shirley. Like, you know, Big Shirley herself running loose. So the Lord is bringing judgments, man. He bringing fucking judgments, man.
That's right.
You understand? We in that time. That's Second Ezra's 9 and 1 on down. You see what I mean? But the Lord will do this thing the way He want to do it. But the prophecies, people don't realize the prophecies. You understand? Are taking place. So people look like you can do whatever you want to do. You can ignore, or you can try to, ignore. You know, you can try to ignore the prophecies. Fine, do that. But that's not gonna stop reality.
Right.
Like, you understand what I'm saying? When a tornado comes, you can sit there and tell yourself, oh, that's not a tornado. That's not a tornado. It's not a tornado. No, in my mind, my reality, there's no tornado. Until that shit comes to rip your ass off the cloud.
Exactly.
Now, you understand?
Right.
That's Jake. That's the spirit
That's
Jake
right.
is in.
That's right.
You see? A tidal, a tsunami could be coming. Oh no. Well, in my mind, that's not it.
Right.
Or just go stand out in the middle of the highway, 183, and just stand there. Oh, and well, in my reality, there's no cars coming.
Yeah, until your ass hit.
In my reality.
Yeah.
You see how demonic this kingdom is, man?
Absolutely. And that's all under Esau's rulership.
Yeah.
With Esau being in power, he allowed this fucking bullshit to take place, man. You know, it talks about, Yahushua talked about a wicked and perverse generation. He said that. But on top of that, who were the rulers, the powers that be during the time of that wicked perverse generation? Esau. You know? He pushes that fucking wicked ass mindset, man. As the scriptures say, when you read also what in Sirach 10, as the king is, so are the officers and so are the people.
Come.
You know, so it makes all the much more sense why Jake is so fucking bugged out. John 8:44, ye are of your father the devil. You know, Jake is influenced by the ways of Esau, Edom, which is why they're going to be led to their destruction.
Can I add to that, Sean? You quoted John 8:44.
Yes, sir.
People, let's go back to when I first came back in the 90s, niggas, even Edomites would come up to the camp and say, well, show me in the Bible where it says the white man is the devil. You just quoted the scripture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, solid. That's right.
But then other scoffers, well, wait a minute, he was talking to the Israelites.
Mm-hmm.
You can bring it out later on if you want.
Come,
See, because if you're a fucking imbecile, then you won't get it.
right.
You understand? John 8:44. Right? That's it right there. The Yahushua called the white man the devil.
Call him the devil.
So the white man is the devil.
Mm-hmm.
If you didn't know, if they didn't come up there and tell you, we're
Yeah.
letting you know.
That's right. That's right. And here in these last days, and we got that 2 Thessalonians 2 pulled up, but the Apostle Paul tells you that the wicked will be revealed in his time. Like, what did they think it was talking about when he said that? Eventually, Satan would dig a hole out of the earth and stand there with his trident. No, man.
Oh no, my guy. Oh, you talking about my dude? You talking about my dude from the hot sauce bottle?
Yeah, exactly.
With the tail,
With the little goatee and shit.
yeah, with the gold teeth.
Yeah, with that staff.
So my dude, Satan, dancing and shit. And then when he dies, if you don't believe in Chesapeake boy chair, you're gonna go see him. And you're gonna be under the ground with flames sparkling up. You're gonna be poking you with the trident for eternity.
Yeah.
Because you didn't believe in the white, blonde haired, blue eyed guy.
That's nasty work. Nasty work.
Oh, but the Pope, I don't want to get it. Well, no, it's news. The Pope, y'all, we just lost the Pope.
Very sad.
We just lost our Pope.
Yeah. And we're gonna say it too. Fair use for the camera. Fair use, section 107, article 107. You know?
Copyright.
No, say it again.
Yeah, fair use, section 107, Copyright Act. Everything that we're saying is for educational purposes, according to section 107, the Fair Use Act.
You got it.
Yeah, for sure. Let's
But wait a
go.
minute. See, but then, man, see, Esau's the devil. This fucking devil. Right? We can't speak. What happened to freedom of speech? Censorship.
Exactly.
The whole thing, man.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? This person just crossed on. Now they're looking for the new guy. I can't wait to see what that's going to
They
be.
got it.
Oh, yeah?
Got it. Yeah, it's gonna be a tape.
No,
Well, probably a Hamite. He dark, so-called
A
black.
Hamite?
Yeah,
Oh,
so-called
you
black.
know we at the end.
Yeah.
But no, then again, no. Everything comes full circle because the popes were black
Black
anyway.
anyway, yeah.
They were Jake. The original popes were Jake.
Jake, yeah, absolutely.
Jake set that whole thing up, man.
You know, I seen it. I said, oh shit, we're gonna end with a so-called black dude.
Yeah. Let's start on the Byzantine Empire. You had black popes.
You gonna blame him?
Wow.
Mhm.
Well, supposedly, the pope that just died, supposedly, I think he was the Edomite, but supposedly he was
He's supposed to be Northern Kingdom,
He was
right?
supposed to be Northern Kingdom. The Pope that just passed on, yeah, he's supposed to be from South America. Technically, he wasn't a Caucasian. He was Hispanic. Yeah, supposedly. Yeah. So it makes sense. So now they got a straight up dark Pope.
Yeah. He
Now,
dark.
where the fuck they dug him out from?
Shoot. Man, my phone recording. I can pull it up and show it to you. I'm recording.
They should have taken Herman Munster the Pope. Go ahead, brother. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, let's get that second Ezra 6. Baba can start.
Second Ezra chapter 6, starting verse 7.
Let's lock it. Just before the brother reads that, in the prior chapter, the angel Uriel is telling Ezra, because Ezra is doing a lot of inquiring, and he's telling Ezra, look, things will get weaker in the very end. Stature will get weaker. It will be a lot more wickedness upon the earth. And Ezra wanted that time to come now, and the angel had to explain to him why it wasn't at that time. You know, so when you segue into chapter 6, it's continuing off on what was taking place in the prior chapter. So he's giving them the tokens of what would take place in the end. It's going to be very weak in the end. Now you got a weak group of people that's going to be ruling in the very end. And that's going to be a sign to show how wicked and weak the earth has gotten throughout time. You know, and you read it in Daniel 4:17. It says this matters by the decree of the watchers, through the intent of the Holy One, that the Lord, the Heavenly Father puts even in power the basis of men. So at the very end, when things have gotten a lot more weaker and a lot more wicked, it would only make sense why the Lord would use the basis of men to have them in power. You know, just when you look at it that way. But you got it, bro.
Second Ezra chapter 6, and starting verse 7. Then answered I and said, what shall be the parting asunder of the times? Or when shall be the end of the first and the beginning of it that followeth?
And when he says the first, he's talking about the current world. All right? This world that we're in right now, and the beginning of it that followeth, meaning our kingdom. That's what he's talking about. And that's what all the great men inquired about. All right? Lo and behold, here today, in these last days, you got guys that are Israelites that are doing, you know, putting the camera on their face saying, why I'm no longer a Hebrew Israelite, or why it's good that everybody's going to be in the kingdom. How the Hebrew Israelites are so wrong. The Elder Menach Zakba has been doing tons of lessons airing these guys out. But when you go into the spirit the prophets was in, even when Yahushua ascended back up into the heavens, the apostles, well, they were the disciples at that time, but they asked them, are you going to now restore the kingdom to Israel?
Right.
And Yahushua's response was like, no, more things got to happen. But when you pay attention to Yahushua's response, he didn't rebuke them for what Israel's kingdom to be at that time.
Right.
Because you got people that's talking about Israel, the Lord's dealing with everybody. Yahushua didn't rebuke them and say, wait, hold on, y'all asked for the kingdom of Israel. It's for everybody. There wasn't no correction on that. Yahushua just told them, no, the kingdom is going to be later on. All right? Just to cut to all those people that are trying to say the kingdom's for everybody. And that just goes to show you that these prophecies are only meant to the believers. Because when you read the prophecies, it tells you who the wicked is. The wicked would be identified. When you look at it through the lens of Christianity, they don't identify the wicked. They don't identify shit. In the Bible, the wicked would be identified, especially in the end. And we're the only ones talking about it. You know? You got it, bro.
Verse 8. And he said unto me, from Abraham unto Isaac, when Jacob and Esau were born of him, Jacob's hand held first the heel of Esau.
And you know, and that's something that I noticed too, when you read about that account in what Genesis, the 25th chapter, when they were both born, there were so many things that was happening in the womb. There's so many events that transpired that wasn't documented in the scriptures. But that one action when they were in the womb of Jacob holding Esau's hand was documented in the scriptures, and it's reiterated by a holy angel, by the way. You know, which goes to show you how crucial that is. You know, because that tells you that the Israelites will be the ones to pull Edom down from their position of power. And that starts with our Lord Yahweh Shai. All right? So that was documented, and that's crucial that the angel Uriel used that as an example. Because we use that within our teaching point very often. You know? Because people try to say y'all wicked for saying that so-called white people can't be ruling. Well, the scriptures tells you.
Right.
Jacob would hope to have Esau's heel and throw him down. So why isn't the Bible wicked then? That's because it's us saying it. That's why they have a problem with it. If it was anybody else, they wouldn't have no problem with it. You got it, bro.
Verse 9. For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followed.
There you go, the end of the world. All right, and you have great men that talked about the end all over the scriptures. Even John talked about it when you read it in 1 John, the 2nd chapter, going into the time that many antichrists would come. Within that same time, he said, it is the last time, little children. When you go into that word time, it goes into the end. So he's telling you in the end, there would be many anti-messiahs that would rule, insinuating that it would be Edomites in power. You know, and wicked people that would follow their rule. You got it. Come on.
Verse 10. The hand of man is betwixt the heel and the hand. Other question Ezra asked thou not.
So that was pretty much the point going into that. Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that follows, meaning that it's going to be the time where the Israelites are going to be ruling after the Edomites are in power, which is a cut to those that are trying to say it's going to be Moab or the so-called Chinese that's going to rule afterwards. You're the so-called, Russians who are Edomites still, which they're going to have if you want to go into the nitty-gritty, are they going to have a little moment where they got things to do after the end? Yeah, after America's destroyed. You read about it in Ezekiel, the 39th chapter, that the Lord is going to use Israelites to fight against Gog and Magog. But that don't mean that the Russians are going to have their time to rule at the end. No. That just goes to show you that the Lord is going to destroy the Idumeans. That's all that's saying. And he's going to use Yahushua to do that. All right? And when the scriptures say it, when you read it in Genesis, the 3rd chapter, that the seed of the woman was going to bruise the head of the serpent, that starts with Yahushua. And that's going to ultimately be fulfilled when Yahushua comes back. All right? That's written up within prophecy. And if that doesn't hold weight, then why is that same serpent reference to the Roman Empire in Revelation, the 12th chapter? And the 13th chapter afterwards. That's why you got to go into the whole Bible when you read it. Mainly, you got to have the Spirit of the Lord on you to even understand the whole Bible. But you can't just start straight to the New Testament and omit the whole Old Testament. If you omit that, then you're omitting the prophecies. You're omitting, the wicked and how they would have their time to rule. You're omitting all of that. Which makes sense. Why they're so fucking gone right now in that whole love mindset. You got something, Tazama?
Yeah, kind of. This is Psalm 68, verse 21. It says, "But the Most High shall wound the head of his enemies, and the hairy scalp of such as one as goeth on still in his trespasses. The Lord said, I will bring again from Bashan, I will bring my people again from the depths of the sea."
Hey, if I may read that part about the hairy scalp again, Baba Kishore?
Yep. Verse 21, it says, Psalm 68 and 21, "But the Most High shall wound the head of his enemies, and the hairy scalp of such a one as goeth on still in his trespass."
Anybody know that word hairy in the Hebrew?
Sha'ar.
Or seer.
It's seer, yeah.
Like Mount Seir, S-E-I-R. That's the same word for hairy when you read that verse right there. So that right there again is showing you that it's talking about the Edomites. Because he even put a code word there when you read that in the Hebrew. It's saying, I'm going to, pretty much destroy Seir.
The head of his enemies.
The head of the enemies.
Yeah.
That's right, which starts with Amalek. And that goes back to Numbers 24th chapter, where it says Amalek was the first of the nations. You go into that word first, it means captain or chief.
Yep.
So the Lord is going to destroy the head right now, the Edomites. Yep. The earth is given into the hands of the wicked, so he's going to destroy the possessors of the earth right now.
Yep.
Start with those elites.
Well, the scripture, like the prophecy says, it says that thou shalt wound his head and he shall bruise thy heel.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so going into the fact of how the head was wounded, like when you read in the book of Revelation, going into the Roman Empire, but it will be healed. Which is what you see today.
Right.
But Yahweh Shah is going to come to actually take the head off the snake.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Last verse 23. It says, that thy foot may be dipped in the blood of thine enemies, and the tongue of thy dogs in the same. So going into how Yahweh Shah is ultimately going to come and return and destroy all the enemies, man. Like it says in Revelation, the 19th chapter. You ask something?
You said his foot gonna be in the blood of his enemies. Let me think of Isaiah 63. Who is coming from Basra and the dyed garments. Just I'm roughly paraphrasing, but that's going to what he's gonna be stepping what you do when you step in the wine fat, like in grapes. You're stumping on the grapes, just like he said. You can be stumping on the enemy's blood. You stump on grapes, the blood of the grapes oozes out.
Comes up, yeah.
It's like the saints are gonna partake in that as well. But Yahweh Shai is gonna get first dibs.
Yeah.
What's that? Psalm 149, I believe. If I'm not mistaken, he said we shall wash our feet in the blood of the wicked.
I think it's Psalm 158. Yeah.
58. Okay, so it's like 58. So
I was just thinking that. Yeah.
same thing.
Same thing.
The saints and the elect are gonna have their hand and have the honor that the scriptures say of doing that as well, along with Yahweh Shai.
Honor have all ye as saints.
That's right.
I think that's the scripture you was thinking of, the binder kings with chains. Was you?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about for sure.
Yep. Honor have ye all as saints. That's right. That's a beautiful point you said, though. It's going to be an honor, the fact and a privilege, and the fact that through Yahweh Shai, that's going to be done. It's an honor to trample over your enemy. That's something, bro. The so-called Christian will say, no, that's hate. But the Bible says otherwise, man.
Oh, but T.D. Jakes said that he welcomed the alphabet community. So that's
man.
okay.
Right. Mm-hmm. Which, ironically enough, he stepped down.
Well, no, but the nigga had a heart attack
Yeah.
in front of his whole congregation. And then he passed it on to his daughter. And man, that's a whole joke. You
Yeah.
see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But that's okay. Them niggas are through.
Yeah.
This nigga had a heart attack. See, but that's shortly thereafter he said he invites the homosexuals
Absolutely.
to his church. But prior, a year, 2 years prior, he was going in on the homos. He was going in on the black woman.
And after them Diddy allegations, too.
Yeah. See what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So a nigga like that ain't gonna make it, man.
Of course not.
Can I bring something out real quick, just to back up,
Yeah,
just to back up the foot and enemies and stuff like that? So this is Manners and Customs from the Bible by James M. Freeman, and I'm gonna read custom number 220 real quick. It's pretty short. The title reads "Enemies Trodden On," and it gives you a scripture, Joshua 10:24. It says, "Come near, put your feet upon the necks of the kings of these kings," and they came near and put their feet upon the necks of them. It says, "This is an ancient Oriental mode of treating captured kings, not as an act of cruelty, but as a symbolical representation of complete subjugation." Compare notes on Genesis 49:8 and 1 Corinthians 15:26. Robert says of the East Indians, "When people are disputing, should one be a little pressed, and the other begins to triumph, the former will say, 'I will tread upon thy neck, and after that beat thee.' A low caste man insulting one who is high is sure to hear someone say to the offended individual, 'Put your feet on his neck.'" So that was an old ancient custom. You see what I'm saying? Whereas like when Joshua came and when he took down all them kings before we got into the land of the promised land, he actually had them kings laid down. He would actually, him and as well as the leaders would put their foot on their neck. Going into the fact of how their heads would be wounded. Going into complete subjugation of these different nations, beginning with the Edomites.
Right.
And
And also those nations in the Holy Land were pretty much, exterminated. Not all of them at that time. And they talking about Joshua, at the time of Joshua. Not all of them, of course, but they were being exterminated out of the land. So it was a lot of bloodshed that took place before we actually inherited the kingdom of heaven. And it's going to be like that all over again. I mean, Ezekiel 39 talks about that. Right there over into that land, it goes into how the Lord is going to use spiritual power to zap the wicked that's over there, burn their ass with fire. It says that we would light them on fire with no wood. And what that means is spiritual power being played. So the Lord is going to get away with them heathen just like how he did. Well, not just like, but it's going to be with more spiritual power.
Well,
Yes, sir.
Revelation 11:3.
Got it.
Remember that one?
Yeah,
I get it.
might as well pull it. I'm already in Revelation. I got it right here. This is the book of Revelation, chapter 11, verse 3. And it says, and I will give power unto my 2 witnesses, and they shall prophesy 1,260 days clothed in sackcloth. These are the 2 olive trees. All right, and when you go into this account right here, that's going into pretty much starting around the time of 19, all the way to 1970. All right, well, we being the Israelites were in a low state, and the Lord set up a Abba Bivens, King Marshall, High Priest Ariel later. Then these men, one of them standing right before us, into what we see right now taking place. And also ultimately, and by the way as well, the power starts with preaching this word. All right, so we've been given the ability to prophesy, which is power. But that's going to also segue into spiritual power too. All right, that's coming as well. But when you go back to it, it says, and I will give power unto my 2 witnesses, and they shall prophesy 1,260 days clothed in sackcloth, which again is us being the Israelites in captivity.
Right.
All right, in America. All right, mourning. That's right. That's right. And the scriptures also says the first shall be last and the last shall be
You
first.
ain't talking about no fucking clothes.
No, yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
Because in sackcloth, when you go in the scriptures, Israelites are accustomed. You cut your hair, you rip your garments, and you put on dirty. You put
dirt on your head. Right.
That's what it represents. We're in mourning.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
That's right. There's another precept that comes to mind, and I'm just quote it real quick. But in Ezekiel the 17th chapter, there's a proverb that's put together, and in that proverb it talks about how we being the Israelites will be cast into the land of Babylon. And when you go into that verse, it talks about the wording says we be brought into a land of traffic. And when you go into that word traffic in the Hebrew, the word is quana'ayin, which is interpreted low land. So we would be brought low at a period of time, and that lowness represents our captivity and our slavery. And this was also the worst recorded slavery that was ever recorded on the planet Earth.
This is the worst, bro.
This is the worst one.
This is worse than Sodom and Gomorrah. This is worse than Egypt. This is worse than Rome, Greece, Babylon, Persian and Mede.
Yep.
Like this is worse. Bro. Look at the state of Jake. Like that's why I see, and many people don't understand. They think I'm just hating on the Southern Kingdom, but the Northern Kingdom, they getting their shit too, man. Look at what the Esau does. You call. It came out naturally as the Esau.
Yeah, the Esau.
Not Esau, the Esau. I kind of said it just now, right? The Esau. That's what Jake did. Back in the days, Jake, that always add extra. We Jake.
The AIDS.
The AIDS. Not like an Edomite say AIDS. He has AIDS. But Jake don't, Jake be extra, He got the AIDS. Your aunts or uncles, somebody in your family got AIDS. They ain't gonna say, oh, Pookie got AIDS. They gonna say, oh, Pookie, he got the AIDS. There's a woman, Keisha, she got the AIDS, not AIDS, the AIDS.
Man.
Or like if someone in your family on drugs, your auntie, especially the women, most of the women, Keisha, she on them drugs and stuff. They want them to say them drugs and stuff.
DEM.
I know. She on them drugs and stuff. Them drugs and stuff.
And carrying on.
She carrying on.
They carrying on.
Come on now.
She on them drugs and stuff. Them drugs and stuff. Jake, but that's his problem. Jake always gotta. That's Jake. That proved me the Israelites. That's what Jake. I know I saw the thug in there. She on them drugs and the old mamas. She on them drugs and stuff. Them drugs and stuff. If you got AIDS, don't let nobody. The AIDS. She got the AIDS. You like, what's that girl? She got the AIDS. The AIDS. You know what I mean? Like Jake gotta always add extra.
Right.
The AIDS, them drugs. But anyways, like you were saying, man, the most I put curses on Jake, man. I keep bringing out Deuteronomy 28:15. Because if you read Deuteronomy 28:1, that's beautiful. That's what it could have been, but that's not what it was.
Yeah, right.
So it's like, you know, we don't really bring out Deuteronomy 28:1 a lot because that's not what it was.
Had 40 years to experience that.
Ain't what it is.
That's what could have been,
Yeah,
but that's not what it was.
right.
We had to take the latter,
Yep.
and that's all of us.
Yeah. We're gonna have to be perfect before we experience Deuteronomy 1:15. I'm sorry, Deuteronomy 28:1-15, excuse me. We
Yeah.
gotta have the new bodies and be perfect under Yahweh Shai.
Well, then Ezekiel, y'all bring that out. The stony heart. Now, I would like for y'all to bring that out.
Come on, that's a bad. Yeah,
The
well, I'll
stony
bring it out
heart,
for you.
heart of flesh, and apostle heart. Well, I done this as a teenager, guys. Like,
36.
it's like, hey, brother, what other little information? I mean, you brothers, man, y'all cats, y'all on the level, man. At this point, y'all better be. After all these years of teaching, all the effort we put in, y'all motherfuckers better be on the level. Otherwise, we gotta examine the shit, but I'm just saying. Y'all was on the level, man. Cause we didn't fit into y'all everything we had. You understand?
Time.
We didn't fit into y'all everything we had. Everything we had, we gave. You understand? As Apostle Tahal told us years ago, look, I'm telling you everything we know. So I'm confident in the spirit, you brothers know everything we know. And more. You know, y'all gotta take shit and take it to the next level.
Got it, Apostle.
You
I got you.
understand? You understand?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Y'all take it to the next level. I've been telling y'all this for the past 3 years since I've been here. You know what I mean?
Come, no doubt.
Apostle Rama was out in this area, so like we just, you know, y'all got it, man. Go on.
I got Ezekiel. This is Ezekiel 36. I'm starting at 24 and read down. But it says, "For I will take you from among the heathen and gather you out of the countries, and I will bring you into your own land. Then will I sprinkle clean water upon you." All right, and we have been scattered among the heathen. That's going into the captivity that us being the Israelites had to experience. All right, and in this final captivity here, which the bulk of us are over here in the Americas, which were oppressed by the so-called white man, which is Esau, Edom. All right, which is also prophesied within the scriptures. That's where the Lord would finish our, pretty much our captivity, for lack of better words. All right, and there it says, "Then will I sprinkle clean water upon you," which is synonymous to this word. All right, which is also synonymous to baptism. And that also shows you too that you don't have to get dumped in water in order to be baptized. It's not unlawful to do. You know what I'm saying? Great men were dumped in water to be baptized, but you don't have to be dumped in the water to be baptized because you're cleansed by this word.
Right.
Okay, so it's going to be the word that cleanses you. The elder Yakar brought it out earlier in what was that at in Jeremiah 3:15.
Right.
All right, where it said, "I will take 2 out of the city, and 1 out of a household and 2 out of the city," loosely paraphrasing. Give you pastures according to my own heart, and they shall feed you. All right, and that's how we're being baptized through the Holy Spirit. All right, with this water. Now when we continue, it says, "And ye shall be clean." It says, "From all your filthiness and from all your idols will I cleanse you." The pork that we was eating, the shrimp, all right, Christmas, Easter, all these different holidays, all right, on top of many other wicked things that we was doing, being adulterers, having sex with women that were clearly in relationships. All right, all of this is stuff that we were doing as we were among the heathen. And the reason why we were doing it is because another thing, we were following the ways of the heathen. And when you continue, it says, and this is the point right here, verse 26, "A new heart also will I give you, and a new spirit will I put within you. And I will take away the stony heart out of your flesh, and I will give you a heart of flesh." And what this is going into, eventually, as we're converted unto this knowledge, as we're cleansed, as we do the work, eventually the Lord is going to give us new bodies. And in those new bodies, we're not going to be able to sin. All right, as we're able to sin right now, which sin is transgression of the law. Well, in the kingdom, we're going to have the law in our inward part where we're not going to be able to go off. That's why when you read this verse here, it says, I will take away from you the stony heart out of your flesh. All right, and that's ultimately going into the law that, you know what I'm saying, the laws that we're not able to keep right now. You know, that's why it says, and I will give you a heart of flesh. That's going into the laws being put within our bodies, where we can't go off. Back in the ancient world, the Lord gave Moses the tables of stone, where the 613 laws, statutes, commandments were written, and we weren't able to keep it. All right, and that was a sign to show that we weren't able to keep it. All right, well, I was written of in Hebrews. It says how it was a foreshadow of things to come, a shadow of things to come. All right, so in the kingdom that's to come, when we have new bodies, we're going to be programmed to be 100% perfect. We're going to have the law in our inward part. Okay.
Well, if I just may add on to that real quick, that's why when Moses came off the mount, that's why whenever he seen Aaron and all the Israelites, you know, sacrificing to the golden calf, he broke the tablets. And that was a foreshadowing of the fact of the stony heart, we wouldn't be able to keep it perfectly. See what I'm saying? And the Lord would have to put it in us. That's why he broke them. I mean, of course he broke them due to the fact of anger, but that was a foreshadowing of through the Spirit, right? Of the fact that we wouldn't be able to keep the carnal commandment perfectly. In this flesh, we wouldn't be able to. That's why it was broken.
Right. In verse 27, I will put my spirit within you. And we have the Holy Spirit within us, but we only have a portion of it. It's a down payment. As the scriptures talks about the earnest expectation, that's something you like to go into very often. We've been given a down payment of the Holy Spirit, but in that day when we have those new bodies, we're going to have the full thing. You know, it says, I will put my spirit within you and cause you to walk after my statutes, and ye shall keep my judgments and do them. And again, we can't do it all right now. You know, all things are lawful, all things are not expedient. We're in the land of our captivity, so we can't keep the law 100%. We can keep what we can keep, you know, but we cannot keep it 100%. You know, and when the Lord gave us the law in the wilderness, we was on our way to the Holy Land. And when you read about those accounts, it says that way in the land, you'll be able to do X, Y, and Z. You know, and Jake continued to fumble the ball. Even when we got in the land, Jake continued to fumble, which is also why Yahushua sacrifice is so important. Because he was the only one to ever exist that was able to keep that law to the T. You know? So that's why Yahushua's sacrifice is so important. His burial, his resurrection. All right? And with his resurrection, that way we have the knowledge and the understanding. And we're walking toward the mark. But when Yahushua comes to deliver us, man, we're going to get those new bodies. You ain't going to be able to be sick no more. Also, another reason why we're sick right now is because we're sinners. You know, the scripture says, the wages of sin is death. You know, so we have the ability to get sick. Satan fuck with our minds and everything like that. We're in this flesh.
Yeah.
You know, but in the kingdom, it ain't going to be no more sickness, no more death. You know, we're going to have all that within our inward parts. We're going to be robots in a sense to keep the laws 100%, just like the angels do. You know, that's why the scriptures also likens us to the angels in Zechariah 12 when that time comes. It says the house of David shall be his God. That word God is Elohim in the Hebrew. That's why it says as the angel before me. You know, so we're going to be different. And that's what we're looking for, man. But in order for that to happen too, Esau had to have his time to rule, as we're talking about. He had to be revealed, and he has to be cast down. All right, so this message has to come out. This gospel has to be preached. Wicked has to be aired out. The lies got to be aired out. And then Yahushua is going to come, vindicate his elect, and deliver us out of here.
And there's a sacrifice for that. Because it's funny, like you say, Esau had to be revealed here. Like, when you read Genesis 25, right? And you read on, if you didn't know any better, if the Spirit of the Lord wasn't dealing to Yahushua, you would feel sorry for Esau. Like, if you were ignorant motherfucker.
Yeah,
in the Bible, according to how, when you read Genesis 25, right, and 21, you would say, damn, poor Esau.
Yeah, right.
That dude robbed him. So realistically, Jacob was already set up as the bad guy. Right?
Yep.
And Esau would have been the good guy. But as we know, there's another thing we taught you brothers. I don't know if we taught y'all that. There's certain things that even Apostle Tahar said it, man, a couple of years ago. That there were certain deep things that we used to go into back in the days. Certain, I don't know, man. Y'all tell me if I'm wrong, correct me. There were certain little deep things that we didn't share with y'all. Yeah, like certain deep knowledge that we used to go into. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I got you. Yeah.
You know, certain things when I came out here, certain things I was laying on y'all, and I told Apostle Hall, I went back east to visit. We said, well, look, brother, no, man, you know, we can't get on the brother, man. We didn't teach them that. We didn't, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Apostle Hall told me that. I was like, man, fucking God, man, I'm not asking certain questions, man. He said, look, brother, no, man, look, we didn't teach them brothers that. We didn't get there yet with them. Even now. You know what I mean? But if you look at the scriptures, Esau, if you're a fool that don't got ears, Esau would really be the good guy, and Jacob would be the bad guy, right? Read it. When he stole the birthright, but like Apostle Paul had always taught us years ago, it was set up in the spirit from the beginning.
That's right.
Because Esau was who he was, the serpent in the garden, Cain.
Right.
You did? So by the time Jacob and Esau came along, they were set up in the spirit of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai for that to happen. And then it's funny, of all people, the Lord used Rebecca to do it. Y'all remember the scriptures? Y'all remember the scriptures, right? Who told Jacob to go and do what he did? Who set it up?
His mama.
The so-called black woman. So that's why now I guess the Lord is set up with a black woman as Satan. But back then she was righteous. You know what I mean? Rebecca, Jacob and Esau's mother. But the Lord put a spirit, so there were times in the scriptures where the Lord was actually dealing with the black woman.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Remember the history of Susanna and the Apocrypha? Y'all know what Haman and
Mother Esther.
Esther, that was the so-called black woman. So there were
Judith.
times, in the scriptures where the Lord was actually dealing with the black woman. But those sisters wasn't Keisha and Big Shirley.
Right. Oh, no.
Those were special sisters that were set aside.
This is the one chick that killed Zohala Frank.
Yeah, Judith.
Put the nails in his head.
Oh yeah,
That was gangster, bro.
Yeah.
That was gangster.
That's gangster.
See, with them sisters, like, you know what they are, as much as we get on the black woman, so, like, even if you look now in the so-called red pill community, you got certain black women that's red pill. I'll be watching the videos, man. You got certain sisters that be going in on the black woman.
Yeah.
And those sisters be, real talk, they be cuties. They be like, yeah, like they going on the black woman like how we do.
A lot of them are feminine women.
Feminine,
Yeah, true.
pretty, they're not fat.
Right.
You notice that it's a demon. It's that whole, it's a demon, man. Meaning these Big Shirleys and Keishas, that ratchet black shit, that's an actual spirit.
That's right.
You dig?
That's right.
And then in what world a woman that's like, okay, if I'm a woman and I want to be feminine, I want to be in shape, I want to look good for my man, so I can get chilled, and you a pick me. Yeah, okay. But guess what? At nighttime, when your big 400-pound ass is going to sleep, you going to sleep in the bed by yourself, rolling out, beating up the pillows, right? Because you ain't got a man. But the pick me, she got her a solid man holding her at night, yeah, baby, making love to her, right? Helping to take care of her, holding her down.
Yeah.
These demons are sick, bro. Like, in other words, a woman that's willing to cater to a man is a pick-me. Like, they created their own reality, their own psychotic, deranged, lunatic reality.
That's crazy.
You look like Dank, they're not Dank the Moss. You look like Dank the Moss, but a woman who looked like, let's say, I hate you, Holly Berry. A woman who looked like Holly Berry that got a man, she's a pick-me. But what is that? How is that an insult?
Right.
How is that even an insult? Yeah, pick-me. Meaning, basically, she's a piece of shit because she'll cater to a man to get chose. But how is that wrong? You tell me, Shaw.
I'm just as confused as you are with that.
I'm like, that shit doesn't, like, it's not even a lot like
It's demonic.
Babylon.
Yeah, that's it.
Confusion. Oh, Babel. Confusion.
That's right.
So we in Babylon. A woman that will bow down to a man so he could pick her.
Yeah.
Like a pet man. But then your fat black ass is single. And then on top of it, you come in with a tribe of Pookie and Ray Ray kids. Tell me, y'all make it make sense. As Esau, then go back to what we talking about. This devil gonna pay.
That's right.
Esau is the John. Oh, y'all mentioned John 8:44.
We mentioned it. Yeah, it was mentioned earlier.
Way earlier, ye are of your father the devil. In the lust of your father, he was a murderer from.
Yeah, the beginning. Yeah, father of lies.
So that go back to what?
Yeah, go back to the garden.
Yep. Gardenian pact.
Right?
That's right.
And then from the Gardenian pact that Eve, then it goes to Cain and Abel.
Right.
See? What did Cain do?
Killed his brother Abel.
Am I my brother's keeper?
Right.
See? It was all about the destruction of Israel. And then it goes back to what? Jacob and Eve. As you go down in history, Jacob and Esau.
Yep.
Why do you think, and then Esau wanted to kill Jacob. He hunted him down. You know? Y'all know the scriptures, man.
If I may, Apostle, it makes sense why Yahushua, when he was talking to the wicked scribes and Pharisees, and used, as John 8:44 is what we're talking about, and he used that wording because just as Abel was killed by his brother Cain, it's like now Jake, who wanted Yahushua put to death, who was a fellow Israelite, you falling into the stead of an Idumean. You know what I'm saying? Just as Abel was killed by Cain, it's like, damn, these wicked niggas killed Yahushua and they want us killed too. They coming up against us, lying on us. It makes sense why Yahushua said you are of your father the devil. Because just as they was in the spirit of killing their brother, you know what I'm saying? Wicked Israelites were in that same spirit later on, what they did with Yahushua. And also here in these last days of what they want to do with us, with the lies, the slander, and it's open lies and slander.
And a lot of these niggas are homo. Them come fucking straight.
Yeah, a lot of them are homosexuals.
Homosexuals.
Absolutely.
That's why I told you now. Homo is a dangerous person.
Yeah, facts.
Any motherfucker, I forget what brothers I was talking to. Maybe some of y'all. Any man that would engage in homosexual activities is capable of doing anything.
Absolutely.
You understand? If you, and most of these jets in the world are homos. I'm not saying all of them are,
Yeah, for sure.
but a large majority of these niggas, like downloading it. That's why I told you that curse you put up. I hate that, bro. Like, I can respect the straight out homos better. Because at least I know you a homo.
Right.
You know what I mean? I know you a mo.
Right.
You know, flamboyant, yeah, like the, whatever, man, that little Richard type motherfucker, like, woo! Like a little Richard type motherfucker. Now, you a straight up mo, you know little Richard is mo.
Yeah.
Woo! Okay, I know this nigga a mo. You know what I mean? I bet, when I was a little kid, I knew little Richard was a mo.
Yeah, but
I mean, you like this music and shit, but you knew he was a mo.
it's tutti frutti.
Tutti Frutti, oh, like you knew it was a mo.
Good.
I'm talking about when I was like 6, 7 years old. I was like, that nigga mo.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I knew that, right? But anyways, like Prince, I knew Prince was a mo. But even him, Prince, he popped women, but we all knew Prince was a mo.
Richard Wood too, they said.
Michael Jackson.
Yeah,
I had the Michael Jackson check. But in my mind, I know Michael gay, man. Like in my mind, I knew that nigga was gay.
To be that big and famous in this world, you gotta be nasty and a fruity. You gotta be fruity.
It's not even nasty now.
Yeah.
But then the thing is, some of them rough house niggas that we thought, he ain't gay. Man, come on, bro.
Malik Yoba, remember that guy?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Apostle.
Oh,
I
he
didn't
was
cut
an
you off.
outright homo.
Yeah.
But he came
Drag.
out years and years. But no, in his prime, in the 90s, when he was
New York Undercover?
New York, nah, he didn't come out back then.
No, he did. Yeah, no.
He didn't come out back then. Back then, he was the cool, rough nigga. He made the show. He was Malik Yoba, yeah. Oh no, back in the 90s, he didn't come out. He didn't come. How come you didn't come out back then, nigga? Like in the 90s when the show was hot.
New York had more roles when it came out.
Yeah, he didn't come out.
He saw it elevated.
Oh, my mother had a
My dad.
My mother had a crush on. And I hate color. He called it a big mo.
Fucking with
But he waited till years later.
Years later, yeah.
After the show was already up the air. But then he was in the top. We all Tyler Perry.
Absolutely.
Man, all them niggas are moles,
That's
man.
it. That's it.
But they still, and you know what? Them niggas are still P. Diddy, Africa Bambaataa.
Man.
But that's when you put that curse up, and I hate that, man. And it fucks your head up. It makes you think like you look at every black man as being a fucking homo, right? And that's not the case. I know. I'm not saying that today there's different demons that jump on different people, right? But not every. The elder Ariana has said this, right? Esau want to push it to believe, but then you can't. How can you not think that way? Because these niggas be on some more shit, man.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like they'll have a woman, they'll have kids and everything. And niggas, they'll pop women, but then on the down, the down low brother shit. You know, how nasty can you be, man?
Yeah.
That you just get into this demonic, but that's nasty, man. Like you got a fine ass woman, and then all of a sudden, it's like a trance. It's like, I ain't gonna get into the particulars, but you wanna go pop some dude up the ass.
Yeah, that's nasty work.
That's nasty, man.
Man, that shows that we're under Edomite supremacy. Because even in the time of the Grecians, they was doing that shit. The Romans, that was popular, and then now it's just hella popular. That's another sign that Esau's ruling right now. The wicked's ruling because that shit's on the forefront and popular as hell right now, man. You know, during them other ancient kingdoms, it was homosexuality going on, but wasn't nothing that was boasted in and proud on. Well, I will say, I'll take that back because the Assyrians, they had a drag king, but still it wasn't still as popular as it is right now under Edomite supremacy. From the Greeks, the Romans, all the way to Rome 2.0 right now with America. Just to add to that point, Apostle.
Come, you got scripture, man. Yeah, Esau's the devil.
He's a devil.
Job 9:24. The earth is given into the hand of the wicked.
That's right.
Hey, and in Sodom and Gomorrah, I'm gonna say something. That was before Israel became a nation as a nation. Now we know that in Sodom and Gomorrah,
Another example,
those were cities. Those cities were of predominantly Hamites, but there were. This is before they were drinking there too.
Yeah, solid point, absolutely.
You can't tell me.
Right.
Lot was there. Was Lot a Hamite?
No?
Lot and his daughters were there.
Yeah.
Now Lot's daughters had husbands. Y'all know that, right? Y'all know that.
Yeah.
So you think Lot would give his daughters to Hamites?
No.
They had husbands. They had dudes they were dealing with, bro.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So, and they tried to tell them, you gotta get out. So Lot's daughters' husbands were probably moles too, man. Undercover moles, they probably doing, because them niggas, scripture don't say
come out.
they didn't make it out of the city. They didn't make it out.
Solid point.
Y'all know that, right? Y'all read the scriptures?
Yeah, solid point.
Lot's daughters, they wasn't just two virgins, them chicks, they had husbands, bro. And them niggas died. Just like Lot's wife. They were engaged in all that wickedness, man.
Living that lifestyle.
Why would the Lord not allow them to make it?
Solid point.
I mean, if y'all don't believe me, y'all can go back and read the scriptures. Do y'all research.
Beautifully put.
Go ahead, man.
Got that 2 Thessalonians?
Okay.
We can end it there unless anybody else has any precepts or points or anything. You know what I'm saying? Like you hold something?
No,
Okay. We can end this. We can end it here on 2 Thessalonians 2, unless the Spirit says otherwise.
2 Thessalonians 2:8. And then shall the wicked be revealed, who the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai.
Matt, can you read a few verses prior about the show?
I'll go back to 6.
That's cool.
It says, verse 6, and now ye know what withholdeth, that he might be revealed in his time.
That he might be revealed in his time. Matter of fact, read up a little more, Elder, about
I
the
started
show.
4.
Yeah, that's cool.
It says, who opposes and exalted himself above all that is called the Most High.
There you go. And that's exactly what you see here under Edomite supremacy. The Edomites that are in power, they boast themselves higher than the Most High. They boast within their technology. All right, we talked about it a few days ago. They made space stations. Of course, there's only so far that they can go. They can't pass the Vanilla Belt, but they got space stations out there. And there has been no civilization prior to Edomite rulership that has ever went to space and made a domain up there. After Edomites did it, then other heathen nations started doing it, but they did it first. All right, on top of many other things these individuals have done. And the Lord allowed them to do that for their pride's sake. That way that they can become more puffed up and proud to think of themselves, to be a God. Okay? You got it.
And it says, above all that is called the Most High, or that is worship, so that he, as the Most High, sitteth in the temple of the Most High.
And you find it, when you go into that word sitteth there, I was having a conversation with a brother a few years ago going into that. Because that word sitteth, when you go into that word in the Greek, it means to make one's abode. Now back in the days of the apostles, after Yahushua had pretty much ascended into the heavens, you have an emperor by the name of Caligula that wanted to actually put his image in the temple. Now he didn't do it, it didn't come into fruition, but that's something that he wanted to do. And the reason why I brought that point out is because that's Esau's MO of wanting to get into the temple. And how they're going to do it now, all right, obviously we don't have a physical temple no more, but we do have these bodies, which are likened unto a temple. And what Esau's going to plan on doing is he plans on putting his mark within your temple. That verse right there says, sitteth in the temple of the Most High. That's what he wants to do. All right, we don't have a physical temple that we go to pray and everything. This whole thing of ours represents the temple. The body's the temple, pertaining to what 1 Corinthians 3rd chapter. All right, so what this devil's going to want to do, he's going to try to do it to everybody, as the scriptures say. But he namely wants to get at Jake because he knows who we are. But they want to put that M-A-R-K within your body. That's their future, what they plan on doing. As they plan on having their 15-minute cities, as they want to establish their enterprise, as the scriptures talks about. All right, that's what they want to do. Okay? You got it.
If I can add real quick to that point, and one of the reason that he wants to do that is because of the scattered seed. Israel has been scattered, so now he knows that they're not going to all come looking like the Shaft, or what I'm saying. So he's going to have to pretty much try to tag everybody in order to make sure he gets Israel.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Because when you read it in the beginning, when the Elohim created, they said, "Let us make man our image and our likeness."
Mm-hmm.
And Esau is pretty much saying, "Fuck that." You know what I'm saying? We're gonna make him after our image and our likeness now. And one way that they want to plan on doing that is putting their mark within you. That's why the Lord said, if you do that, you're done away with. Shows you it can't be sin, according to what IUIC and Nate got to say about that. They're saying it's sin. And on top of that, they're saying Esau is going to use sin and make sin popular to get you to turn away from God. Jake been doing that. Jake been turned away from the Lord. Esau's been made sin popular and such. So it's got to be just more than sin. And we know that, of course, going into their flawed logic. But that's how Nate broke that down. He said Esau would pretty much set things in play to separate you from the Lord, to make you sin. That's been happening for way before now. So to use that to justify saying the MOTP is sin is asinine. So like if it's out of, off subject, but it's not off subject. Because these guys are following the ways of Esau and Edom. But that just goes to show you that it actually has to be more, which we know, of course. It's more than just sin. They actually plan on cutting your flesh open and putting something within you. Esau deals with the sword, man. That's his blessing. Technology. Why would he not want to put his technology within your body? The scriptures talks about a grievous sword that's going to take place afterwards. That cancerous infection that's going to take place. There's got to be more than just sin. We know that, of course. But it's these guys' flawed logic. Why I'm bringing this up. You gonna say something else?
It's got Noah Harari. A lot of his lectures, he always talks about now the human body we're able to hack the human body.
Wow.
You know, so it's now sin. They're trying to put their technology, like you said, on the hind, like let us make man in our image. Esau wants to change that by hacking the body. When you look up the definition of a hack, it means unauthorized access to a system.
See?
So they don't, their access is really unauthorized, but they want to hack. Like, they want to be a hacker. They're trying to hack the system that the Most High created. You know, which is Israel. You know, so
They went into that in the Akatar movie.
They sure did.
The woman, remember the woman was talking to the general? She telling about all the nodes in the head, you gotta get in there and connect and shit. That's she was talking about that shit.
Yeah, so they want to hack that system to change it, to modify it, and that way they can patent it. Now it's after their image, and that makes them the god to everybody else. You know?
That's right. They already remodified a lot of people's DNA 4 years ago with that Maxine Waters.
Oh, y'all know I gotta throw my 5 cents
Come on,
in.
Apostle, let's get it.
I'm just, they're talking about hacking DNA. Remember that movie Clone Tyrone, right?
Yeah,
And they
absolutely.
did it on Jake.
Mm-hmm.
This whole, I know I sound like a broken record to y'all, but you know what? I don't give a fuck, brothers. I'm gonna keep saying what I gotta say.
Yeah.
Spirit is on me to say everything. I don't care if y'all get an attitude with me or whatever.
Do your thing.
But I'm telling the fucking truth through the spirit of Yahweh. I don't care. I'm a prophet. That much I at least know.
Okay.
Whether the Lord gonna deliver me or not, I still don't know. But I'm a prophet. I'm gonna say what I gotta say. The whole jit, the big Shirley. It's a, if y'all can't fucking see that shit, if y'all can't see it,
Right.
y'all can't see what I see, man.
Definitely part of the program.
How many of y'all saw that movie Clone Tyrone by show of hands? Y'all can't see who Esau is behind it.
Mm-hmm.
But y'all opened up the door. Bro, it's a prototype.
Yeah.
It's an assembly line. How is it that, and then you got these other, and the fact that I know I'm not lying, these other red pill niggas and certain red pill, women that's in the red part of the red pill community, you got men, but you got certain black women that's a part of the red pill community that's getting at the majority of Jake, of Southern Kingdom primarily, right?
Yeah.
Bro, it's look it up. We gotta look at it. Even after we done with this lesson, we gotta look it up. 70%, we talking about black people now. Black folk. 70% of black women, we ain't talking about the black man right now, we're talking about black women. 70% of black women are Big Shirley.
Yeah.
Now, that's pretty much the majority.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm holding up 10 fingers. Holding up 10 fingers. So this is like 100. 10 is 100. We all know.
Right.
I was never really good in math, but I learned enough to know how to do stuff. This is 100. This is, right? This is 70. So it's really subtract 7 from 10. So basic math, adding subtraction. We didn't even get to multiplication yet.
Right.
We didn't even get to division yet. And I was never really big in math, but I learned enough to, pass and graduate.
No doubt. Yeah.
This is it. What would you say? 10, subtract 10 from 7, right? Boom, this is 7. That leaves 3. So that's 30%. So out of so-called black, we stand on topic.
Yeah, for sure.
Boom. 3.
Yeah.
30%. So of black women, would only 30% of black women are
Right.
in shape. So the other, let's put the 3 down. 70% of so-called black women are. So what would y'all say? That's the majority.
That's the majority. That's the crucial
That's like,
authority.
statistically, that's 7 out of 10 black women.
Right.
7 out of 10 black women are Big Shirley.
Big Shirley.
That's crazy.
And Esau is behind that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say it. I'll give him a break. I'll say the white man's behind it. Because he did that on purpose. That was a plan.
Absolutely.
It was a plan to destroy Jake. You understand? To destroy primarily, I did a video on this the other day, the tribe of Judah. Why?
Because that's the head tribe.
You know, Esau knows the rules. You scatter the shepherd and destroy the shepherd and the sheep shall scatter.
Yeah.
So they figured they could, because they're primary attackers in the tribe of Judah.
Right.
You see? They figured if the tribe of Judah could never get into order, then the rest of the tribes was fucked.
That's why he got to be revealed in these last days, because that nigga did that shit.
Yeah.
That nigga did, that's wicked. Like, that's
Y'all
deep.
did?
It's a lot.
No, you
Yeah.
did?
God. Absolutely.
It's a science behind this shit.
Mm-hmm.
A spiritual science, man.
Yeah. That's right. He had to go deep to that too, man.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because, you know, not the common person is going to think of that. They're going to look at their mama and empathize with all of that stuff and think, you talk about it often. You just use Esau as an example. Well, they ain't that bad. They use the same thing with their big old mama and everything. I was raised under her. So they're going to automatically be compassionate toward their loud mouth shit. You know what I'm saying? I see that shit at work. You know, Jake, the main ones attached to the hip on loud mouth black women and stuff. 'Cause it reminds me of their mama. Good.
Hey, fucking, I'm like, hey, but during the lesson, my homegirl still working there.
Of course he still works there.
This big Shirley working there, that's Satan. They walked her ass out security, so she came back with a vengeance.
She got fired and came back a week later threatening to sue.
With a vengeance.
Crazy. I knew you would bring it up.
I ain't never read this brother told me about it, like, she put that, but the spirit got it, like, he don't have to deal with it too much.
Yeah, not as much. Yeah.
Hey, but
Still got
yo,
to deal though.
I mean, if security walked her ass out, but she came back.
Tried to report me to management a few weeks ago on something I didn't even do. Yeah, this is a hindrance.
Hey man, and that bitch came back with a vengeance.
Man.
Revenge of the ninja.
Oh.
But that's the, see, Esau did that. That's why, man, when I first saw that movie come, that's why they tried to kill that nigga Jamie Foxx.
Yeah, facts.
That's why they tried to take it down, because he was doing too much.
Mm-hmm.
He was doing too much. Esau said, nah, nigga, you doing too much. They tried to take his ass out. Because that movie is not a movie, that's a documentary.
Facts.
I watched that, I must have watched that movie at least 5 times.
Mm-hmm. That shit was good. That shit was great.
But that's everything we're going into right now.
That's right. That's right.
I mean, he straight up put it out there. And that's why Esau tried to kill his ass. That's why they tried to kill his ass. Because them the part that was in the chicken joint.
It's in the chicken. Yeah.
Brother, everything about that movie is reality. The part that the dude, his mother, he kept asking, he kept trying to give his mama a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. He kept, nah, mama, peanut butter. Like, but he loved his mother.
Yeah.
But she was the non-existent mother. She was in the house, but she wasn't there.
Right.
That was, see, you gotta go deep into it.
Absolutely.
And then remember, at one point he lost it, it broke the door, and it was like a tape recorder, it was like, she wasn't even there.
Yep.
Like, come on, man.
That's it.
But see, for the past 50 years, the black woman been popping that shit about the black man ain't there, fuck the black man. The black woman we had to raise these boys, but she really wasn't there. Why? Because these black bitches, that's why they got multiple kids by multiple men, because here it is, the first dude that you had a baby by, you had a baby by this dude, right? But then what happened? The shit didn't, for whatever reason, it didn't work out. Why? And the homeboy went about his business, and then but you already had one little baby, a little boy in particular, or even a little girl, and then they were looking for love, and children need nurturing, man. Children, even in the animal world, like a cat or a dog, the mother has to nurture it, you know. But then these kids were looking for that, but then they didn't get that because this kid is 5 years old. And, you know, he want to be up with his mama looking for that nurturing, but no mama, hey, girl, shut up. Hey, look at TV, here, here's some Cracker Jacks. And she up in the room with the next nigga. Getting banged, you know what I'm saying? Y'all dig? I know, bro, I have friends and people, you know what I mean? You a little kid, 5 years old, your mama in the room, some other, here's a McDonald's hamburger, and she up in the goddamn room getting banged out by some other nigga, and the cycle goes on and on, you see? So now you wanna know why these little niggas out here shooting up schools and doing shit. They frustrated, they angry, man. They looking for that love that they never, that nurturing and that love that they never got. Yes, yes, sir. Please, brother, shy, elder.
Lamentation chapter 4, verse 3. Even the sea monsters draw out the breast.
Ooh.
They give suck to their young ones. The daughter of my people is become cruel, like the ostriches in the wilderness. The tongue of the sucking child cleave to the roof of his mouth for thirst. The young children ask bread, and no man breaketh it unto them. So, just like you're saying, the Jakes, young Jakes these days, they don't get that nurture and love from the mother. These women are cruel as hell. They mean as shit to their kids. You know, but it's that even the sea monsters will have, like you referenced the animals. They nurture. You can watch nature channels, but they still nurture, look out for the children. But now the nigga woman, she for the black woman, she leave the kid out there to fend for themselves. You know, now it's a lot of times women are getting reported now. They'll go on vacation on a cruise for a week and they're leaving the kids at home.
Bro, there's well, and it's all, yo, man, I did videos on this, man. These big, it was like 3 or 4 big Shirleys that neglected their kids, just totally deserted the kids to death. And the cops finally arrested them. Why is that? How come nobody reported that shit? But the white man's the devil. He enables that. Because what the dumb tribes of Israel don't understand, the 2/3, is that but you know what? That's the Lord. The Lord, what's that scripture? 1 Samuel 2:6. The Lord killeth and maketh alive. And you know what? The scriptures say, remember, them wicked niggas back 2,000 years ago, when they crucified the Messiah, Yahushua, let his blood be upon us, right. Our children's children. So a lot of them little boys, you want to be real? I have no empathy for these little niggas. I don't, brother. I don't know how you brothers feel, but if y'all do, you better pray to the Lord to get that shit out of y'all. They better stop being so fucking nice.
It's gonna get cold out here.
You brothers got to get more cold. See, I reached that level 30 years ago, bro. Okay? Y'all understand what I'm saying? You brothers better get that fucking soft shit out y'all spirit, man. That shit about having mercy on Jake, 2/3.
Right. Fuck.
I'm trying to tell y'all, I'm trying to put y'all on.
Now they're pointing to death, you know. The scripture says whoever perishes being innocent.
Right.
So they're not innocent at the end of the day. You know, through prophecy, 2/3 of our people, they were destined and appointed for destruction. So, you know, if you're in the spirit, you shouldn't feel any type of way about that.
That's right. And just to add to your just to add to your point as well, we throw curses all the time. You know, the curses are landed in the way the Lord sees fit. So, you know, you can't get bent out of shape and mad when Jake start getting fucked up. We throwing up the curses. You know what I'm saying? So it's the Lord answering prayers right now, you know? That's it at the end of the day.
I just want y'all to understand that.
Right.
Everybody within hearing distance, and I know the camera's going, so you brothers in G, especially you brothers in GMS. And another thing I just want to throw out there real quick. Another thing I want to throw out there real quick. All you guys that's walking around with GMS on your name, but you ain't really down with us, yo, and you know,
That's right.
y'all know me, I'm raw. But I ain't got time to play fucking games. If you down with us, you down with us. If you ain't, go fuck yourself, man. And take GMS off your goddamn fucking names. Okay? And I want y'all to mirror that. All you brothers in GMS, the brothers on the comment boards, if they're listening, if they heard me, this is Apostle Ricard. If you down with us, and I'm gonna explain myself. If you down with GMS, you gotta report in.
That's right.
Okay? And I'm not talking about reporting to my ass, because I'm not taking, look, man, that's not my job. Right? Apostle Tahar, the bar, myself, Apostle Ron, nigga, don't call my phone, don't text me. There's other men under us that deal with that. We ain't dealing with all that. You report it into your regional camp leaders, you report it into your immediate superiors. if you down with us. If you ain't down and you got GMS in your name, take that shit off. That's an order. And you can't believe this order, you can't believe this, better fucking start acting on that, man. Okay? Y'all better monitor that shit, man. Alright?
Gone, Apostle.
That's all I got to say, man.
Gone. We can end it here on this verse. Point's pretty much been made.
2 Thessalonians 2:8. And then shall that wicked be revealed, whom the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai shall consume with the spirit of his mouth.
Which is going into these prophecies. He's being consumed by his word. All right, here in these last days, Edomites, the wicked, they're being revealed by this word. All right, which is why this prophecy, this gospel we're preaching is so important. You can't leave it up to the so-called Christian. You can't leave it up to Islam and none of these other organizations. We know the Lord's not dealing with them, but the wicked's not being revealed with what they're saying. If anything, they're adding on to the wicked's enterprise. They pretty much took the nail hand in hand with the wicked. Even wicked Israelites that know that they're Israelites. With the whole 501c3, you know? But it says right here what the elder just read, in that time. So the Apostle Paul is talking about a time that was to come afterwards, which we're in that time right now. All right? And it says, in that time. What time is it? The last time.
Right.
John the Revelator stated, this is the last time. Many antichrists will be, loosely paraphrasing, there's going to be many antichrists. But this is the last time. Which is why brothers are so adamant about doing videos and shows. And you got Israelite camps popping up, talking about Esau. All right? You can make your whole, for these scoffers that are coming up making the little videos. I'm not a Hebrew Israelite. This is where they're wrong at because they hate the white man. No, the white man's being revealed because the prophecy said he'd be revealed in this last time. All right, so we ain't doing nothing but forwarding what the Lord committed us to do. And that's to preach the words of prophecy. All right? You made mention earlier, Apostle, going into a breath like the wind. All right, you see the wind coming. You ain't going to stand there and ignore it until the wind comes. Well, guess what? This prophecy's likened unto the wind. Revelation 19:10 says what? The testimony of our Lord Yahushua is the spirit of prophecy. When you go into that word spirit in the Greek, pneuma. When you break that word pneuma down, it's breath. All right? So this breath is coming out right now. And if you don't want to hear it and want to ignore it, so be it. That's to your detriment and your demise.
Well, hey, we had some storms come through here the past couple of days. Today is a beautiful day. Sun is out. Yesterday was a different story. The other day, we skipped the day, the Tuesday, whatever it was. Look, man, we've all been in storms, right? Like when they say, well, we got some severe thunderstorms coming. Not even tornado.
Yeah.
Just severe. We had them here for the past few days here in Texas, in the Dallas, the North Texas area. We had some storms come through here. Well, shit, I'm from Florida, so I can tell you about that. In Florida, it was more intense than this. Anyways, y'all know you see the clouds and you feel that wind kicking up. You know when it's gonna really rain. Like it's black, the sky is black, and you feel it. You can smell it, you can feel it. And then you know, let's say like you got some, you trying to bring the groceries in your house or whatever, you out doing something, and you be like, let's pack up and get our shit going down. It's about to dump on us, right? And you try and you feel it, you feel little drops, you might feel it, and all of a sudden, it's like, being in the shower. You get soaking in there, got soaking wet in a storm, you got caught in a rainstorm, a powerful rainstorm.
Absolutely.
That's truth is indicative of that. The prophets represent the winds, the strong winds. That's how it's gonna be. Remember, we're the winds, like bro,
That's it.
Meaning the prophets, the men of the Lord. How else is the Lord talking to Jake?
Right.
How else is the Lord talking to Jake?
Exactly.
The Most High ain't gonna
Exactly.
like in the movies, a giant voice coming down from me. He ain't talking to these niggas.
Right.
If the Lord did that, they probably still wouldn't listen.
No. At the account where the Lord did all those miracles and Jake still didn't listen. That happened and Jake still didn't listen.
You know what I mean? Them niggas ain't gonna listen.
Right.
Well, at one point, never let it count. The Most High did come down. He said, Most men want to listen to you more. We want the Most High to come himself.
I'm scared for 2 seconds.
Right.
They can't. The Most High came down the mountain shook. They got scared. No, Moses, no, let the Most High talk to us.
Right.
No, Salakia, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm
I
sorry.
got you. Yeah.
He said, no, Moses, at least we died. You talk to us. We don't want the Most High. But the Israel get right after that.
No, they still was tripping.
I know I would have got right after that.
Right.
I would have been like, man, bro, shit, that's, nigga, you serious? Let's just do this. Let's listen to the Lord. Okay, Moses, whatever you say.
That's right. That's right, Apostle. Hey, the Lord had to use that second generation to enter into the land. They didn't see the exodus out of Egypt, save Joshua and Caleb, of course. They didn't see a lot of the same to the first generation. So, you know, when they crossed over to the land, the Lord had to do it another, you know, to add to your point.
Even Moses didn't make it
Even
himself.
that's scary. Kind of.
Moses, man. Now, if anybody you thought Moses would have made it, Moses
Right.
didn't make
He
it.
didn't even make it.
That's scary,
Boy,
man.
that's terrible.
That's terrible, man. I mean, eventually he did make it in the reincarnation.
Right. Right.
Moses was a man of the Lord, but at that point he couldn't even go in.
Right.
So that shows the humility that we should have.
Absolutely.
You gotta be confident, but then you still gotta be
Yeah.
humble, man. That's why you got a lot of guys running around like a particular few of the dudes walking around talking about this, that, the third. See, and let me explain this too. Double honors the apostle. That's just a fucking catchphrase, man. Double honors, fuck you, man. Let your actions show forth.
That's it. Right. That's right.
Double honors, that's just like a script you're reading on a piece of paper. Show that you double honors to the apostles and the elders that rule well. And guess what? Okay, well, if you believe that, report in.
Man, that's it.
Report in to the apostles and the elders. And not to us, the men that we got set up under us. Right? You see what I'm saying? Other than that, take GMS off your fucking name and do your own thing. Cool, we ain't gonna hate on you. We ain't gonna say anything about it. As long as you teaching the right doctrine.
Right. Right.
Yeah, we gotta remember that, brothers, right? Because if a nigga's going off, nah, I'm not endorsing you.
Right.
Because we gonna monitor, we watch videos. Like, if you going off, then nah, nigga, that fuck that nigga, then we gonna get on you. But if you teaching the right, it ain't about you gotta be up under us. You don't wanna be up under us, go do your own thing, man. Go do your own thing, man. Cool. But as long as you teaching the right thing, that's all, Charles.
Come.
2 Thessalonians 2:8, and then shall that wicked be revealed, whom the Lord Yahweh Shem Shai shall consume with the spirit of his mouth.
Which is this prophecies coming out, the spirit of his mouth. These prophecies being released. You know, the scriptures talks about the words of our mouth being like a fire when you read it in Jeremiah, the 8th chapter, and the people for stubble. And eventually that's going to segue into the Lord intervening and getting involved and actually coming for judgment. You know? Go ahead.
And shall destroy it with the brightness of his coming.
There you go, with the brightness of his coming. All right, so it starts with that wicked being revealed, though it said that. Then shall that wicked be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth. So this message of ours is very important, because this is how the wicked is being revealed. The wicked's not being revealed. This was pretty much the point of the lesson. The wicked's not being revealed when you look at the world of Christianity and all these different groups that are out there. Which the wicked being revealed is a pivotal part of this thing of ours, a truth coming out. The wicked has to be revealed. The Apostle Paul said that. All right, so our ministry is very important to the world. All right, because without what we're teaching right now, who in the hell would know who the wicked is? I know before I came to the truth, I didn't know who the wicked was. We just thought it was the devil.
Right.
But we didn't know exactly how deep it was. It is the devil. We didn't know what it meant, who it was. We didn't know nothing about Esau, the border of the wickedness. We didn't know about that until we actually what? Entered into the sanctuary of the Heavenly Father. Pertaining to what? Psalm 73. Okay? And as we entered into that sanctuary, now the wicked's being revealed. All right? And eventually that's going to segue into the Lord doing away with them. Then death shall be swallowed up in victory. That's another thing too. Death is going to be swallowed up in victory. In order for that to happen, the harbinger of death also has to be casted away to the side. All right? We're in that time right now. All right, anybody got any closing points? Cool. Well, hey, hopefully this was edifying. We're going to close it off by saying, call the Lord, Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Kakodash. Double honors to our apostles and the elders of Great Millstone that rule well through the Holy Spirit. Peace and blessing and salutations unto you elect, who are scattered throughout the four winds of this earth, fulfilling your lots in all truth and all sincerity. Shalom.
Come on. Certain things gotta be said, man. Cool.